So without further ado, I want to, move on to our student panelists today. You can see we have a slide here that kind of gives a little bit of a highlight of their backgrounds, but I'd like at this moment to ask each of them to spend a minute introducing themselves, telling us a bit about what they did before coming to MIT, and then a bit about, what they're involved with right now. So Anka, you can kick us off.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Anka. I'm French, but I was born in Spain. I did my undergraduate degree at Imperial College London. So I did mechanical engineering. I did 1 year of a year in industry. So I worked for Tesla, Amazon, Bloomberg for a year. But apart from that, I just came directly from undergrad to MIT.
All right. And then you can pass it on to Joe. We'll just go right down the line here on the slide.
Perfect. Hey guys, my name is Joe. I'm from New Jersey. I went to Seton Hall University, which is a small university in New Jersey. I studied math, financial math. My background is mostly in actuarial sciences. So I worked in both consulting and insurance industries for those internships. But I'm straight from undergrad, like Anka.
All right, Emily.
Hi guys, I'm Emily. I was born and raised in New York. I went to Cornell University for undergrad, and like Joe, I came here straight from undergrad. I studied operations research, and I kind of have a healthcare background because I was pre-med for a long time. I don't have any industry experience other than my internship where I entered at Regeneron. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Vojta.
Vojta. My name is Vojta. Hi, everyone. Originally from the Czech Republic. I did my undergrad at Boston College, where I studied economics and math. And then after undergrad, I worked in economic consulting for 3 years in downtown Boston.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here to share your stories. So the first question I have, we can, even though I said we didn't have to do this in my prep, the one question that I think it makes sense is, the first question is, can you tell us a little bit more about what led you to MIT Sloan's business analytics program? What were some of the things that, matched for you in terms of your decision-making process, either to apply and or enroll here? And anybody can start.
I can get started on this.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, I work in economic consulting before this. And some of my favorite aspects of my job were the technical data aspect, and I knew I wanted to enhance my technical skills. So I was looking for a more technical degree, and data science was my number one option, and that's how I ended up here.
Nice. Anyone else want to add?
I can jump on, and then Anka and Emily can take the next question. For me, I was pivoting from being an actuary, that's what I was prepping for throughout college, and going to senior year, I decided that was not for me. So I was looking for different master's programs in the data science space or business analytics space. And this one really stood out to me for the industry experience and the industry focus, where some other programs weren't as much into the action learning. So I think that was a key reason that I want to apply here.
Nice. All right. We can move on to another question. So, one other question I'm often asked as people are kind of exploring, different programs that are out there, what are some of the things that you did before applying to learn a bit more about this program? How were you able to kind of continue to engage with us, or how were you able to kind of formulate, the research that you needed in order to make the decision to join us at MIT?
I think one of the things I did was watch some of the YouTube videos that we have about MBAn program in general. I remember specifically one from last year where it was I don't know if it was 10-minute video of just everything that they did that year. And I found it very helpful to see what a day-to-day looks like as an MBAn student. What other activities were they doing? How it just gave me a very good overview of what to expect from the program. And I think also, the Instagram account gives you a very good idea. Emily can talk more about that, but yeah, it just allowed me to like keep track of, okay, what would it look like? Do I feel like I could like suit in this, like, yeah, be a good fit for this program? I don't know.
Excellent.
Yeah, as Anka mentioned, I also was looking at the Instagram and videos on YouTube early on to just get like a general overview of what this program had to offer. And I think later on in my application process, as I attended more of these sort of MIT hosted events, both online and in person, I reached out to some of the current students and asked more specific questions about like what life was like as an MBAn, balancing courses and stuff related to research, all sorts of questions. And for the most part, students are very like receptive to that and willing to answer any questions.
Awesome. All right. All right. So another question, this one was on a list that was pre-submitted. So please continue to post your questions in the Q&A, but what's something that surprised you since joining the business analytics program?
I can go first. I think the community here, when I hear about MIT, I expect these people who are going above and beyond, and I wasn't expecting such a collaborative space. Like once the first homeworks dropped, once the first lectures started, everyone helped each other. And I was honestly not expecting that in graduate school. I thought it was going to be more like you're on your own, you're going to figure this out. But the MBAn community is so supportive, and if people come from different backgrounds and have different strengths, like they're there to help you, which I think is really phenomenal.
Kind of building off of what Joe was saying, I was very surprised how diverse our class was. I went to undergrad at Boston College, and the international student population was relatively small compared to the total population. Whereas I think, as Jen mentioned in one of the previous slides here, it's roughly 70%. We have people from all over the world, people bringing various different perspectives, and it's been very super cool to see people coming from different backgrounds and different cultures come together and work on shared projects.
Can you talk a little bit more about the courses that you've enrolled in this first semester? So for our audience, the first semester curriculum can be quite intimidating and a bit intense. So can you talk a little bit about a favorite class that you've had so far, or a favorite classroom related experience that's happened so far?
I can go first. I think one of the classes that I really like is analytics to lab. So more than a class, I would say it's like a project work that we're doing this semester, where we get to work as groups of like 4 or 5 with a company. And I really like that because obviously we're going to do a capstone project in spring and summer, and that's going to be a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And this is like the opportunity to, let's say, test it out, get firsthand experience of like working with a company. And you have a team of 4, so there's a lot of people to help you with this, and you get to use like real life data set, work with a company like every week, meet up with them, get feedback. And I think that's one of the modules that I really enjoy.
Anyone else? What's a class that has been challenging for you, and how has the program helped to give you the support systems to feel more confident to tackle some of the content of the class?
I think for me, one of the challenging ones was machine learning. I think the main reason was because I was not used to the notation and the symbols and the way of approaching questions that they introduced to us. So I completely remember first few lectures, I was just sat there watching Bert Seamus write random symbols, and I was like, I don't even know what this means. And we get a book that he's written, and we're supposed to that's like what we're going to cover throughout the year. And I was just opening that, and I was like, there's no chance I'm going to understand this by the end of the year. And somehow you do. And it's just insane because everyone's so collaborative, everyone's helping each other out. You have, if you don't understand things, there's office hours with TAs, which will explain concepts. We do so much like group work, where we'll go into a room with like some other students and work on homeworks together, work on lectures. So there's just a lot of support, and it's just crazy how much you actually end up learning, and it's not that scary. Like once you get through that initial like, oh wow, I'm not made for this, you end up realizing that you are, and everyone learns from it. So yeah.
Anyone else?
I personally also struggled with machine learning, especially because here at MIT, it's taught under a modern optimization lens, which is a buzzword for all of us. But essentially, on top of machine learning, we're also taking optimization. And I personally have never done optimization in my undergrad, so that was all new concepts to me. And in order for me to understand some of the initial machine learning concepts, you have to have some sort of understanding of optimization. So I would say the first 2-3 weeks were pretty difficult, but as we covered more material in optimization, I became a lot more comfortable with the material, and things slowly started to make sense. But the first 2-3 weeks, I would say, were definitely the most challenging.
What are some of the ways the students in the program, the 81 students in the program, have helped or been able to kind of build relationships with one another and build a community among one another? I mean, I've been around you guys a couple times over the past few weeks, and it feels like everybody knows everybody, and you're all kind of new best friends. But what are some of the things that have happened to help kind of build that community among your class?
I think first of all, we're a relatively small class. I mean, obviously 81 is still a lot of people, but I just feel like it's a relatively small class compared to what we were all used to in undergrad, which means that first of all, that was easier to just create connections with every single one of us. But I mean, all of us here are part of the leadership council, where we organize a lot of events for students. Just from like the last month, we went all ice skating together. We have like coffee buddies, so where we're assigned to a partner for every 2 weeks, and we have to like go get a coffee with them and get to know them better. We went on a fall retreat to New Hampshire, so that was a whole weekend away, just like going on hikes and having fun and having a costume Halloween party. So there's so many other like events to like have fun, enjoy yourself, get to know each other. I mean, one of the things that we always get told is like networking is also super important. More than just learning all the core material, like it's also another very good skill to have. So we're always like meeting new people.
I also want to add that orientation has been super helpful for me in particular. I don't know if this is the case for other programs here at MIT, but we had a two-week, I believe, long orientation where we basically hung out with each other for 2 weeks straight and had a combination of classes and like fun activities, icebreakers to get to know each other. And I think it really set the tone very well for the rest of the semesters. So once homework dropped, people sort of knew who to go to. It wasn't just like we got to campus and here's a problem set, solve it. So I think the MBAn office did such a great job welcoming everyone and fostering this super welcoming environment.
Awesome. Before I turn over to the questions in the Q&A, another topic, which I know you've only really just begun, but it is certainly top of mind for prospective applicants, is, how you're able to gain access to resources to support your career search. And I know there was a session earlier this week with Tracy, one of our career advisors on LinkedIn, but can you talk a little bit more, bigger picture about some of the ways that you've already, been working alongside the support of the career office to prepare yourself, not only for, the capstone interview process, but maybe for thinking about longer term, what you might want to do? What are some of the sessions that Tracy's done so far, or any of the kind of content or suggestions that, you've been working through?
Like you say, we have like some core classes taught by Tracy or other professors, teachers, to help us both with our capstone project and for future careers. So that's, like you mentioned, we had a LinkedIn session where we learned how to like optimize our LinkedIn profiles, how to make a good CV, but also like professional communication. I remember we all had a session, we were like having to stand up in front of others and give a 1-minute speech about a topic that we didn't know in advance, and we'd get like positive and constructive feedback in terms of how we communicate, how we transmit, share our information. I think all of those things are very useful to help us like be more prepared for when it comes to finding a job or like being in a like professional working environment. I think they sound not that useful, but honestly, I've learned so much from just those opportunities, even just with a few sessions. It's been incredible. And on top of like the career development office, there's also loads of like different societies that you can take part, which are more focused on individual like topics that you might be interested in, and you can get like more connections. There's so many different talks going on where you can meet loads of new people from different industries. I think there's just like a lot, if you want to make the most of it, like there's just so many opportunities that you wouldn't have time to just enjoy all of it, basically.
I can jump in, sort of going off of what Anka was saying. I think clubs are a great way to meet people. Also outside of the MBAn program, I'm part of a bunch of clubs where I was able to meet people from like the MBA program, LGOs, and those are people who like have some work experience prior to the program. So those are a great resource. And second, I'd like to give a shameless plug to these analytics speaker series that our class puts on every year, and where we invite either alumni of the program directly or Sloan and have them talk about what they have been doing after MIT. They usually have a Q&A session, and it's a great way to reconnect with alumni.
Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna turn over to a couple questions in the chat. So the first one is, can you talk a little bit more about how you've been able to balance sort of, I don't even know if this is possible at this point in the program, but can you talk a little bit more about how you've been able to balance school and personal life and, time for things outside of class?
I can start off and then if you guys want to add on. I think just a semester, it's going to be overwhelming with all the work. But I think when we're intentional about how we're setting time aside for certain things and when we're going to set time aside to actually enjoy ourselves and do something non-academic and talk about non-academic stuff with each other, that's how we find that balance. And even if you have a busy day, like for me, I have about a 20-minute walk to get to Sloan. So if I'm walking with someone, that's 20 minutes there that I'm catching up with friends, not talking about my optimization homework with them. So you'll definitely find the time. And I think through the events that Anka highlighted before, it's been really fun to just take a step outside of the classroom and be a class together.
Anyone else? No? Okay. So the next question is, obviously the curriculum is rigorous, and would no doubt take up so much of your time. This person is curious about how much time you spend on non-curricular items, for example, extracurriculars or research, as opposed to, what's required of you in class. So maybe like a typical day or a typical week in terms of how many hours you're spending on coursework versus, is anyone here doing a research assistant role? Okay, we'll touch on that in a second, but at first, maybe balance of everything.
I think I don't know in terms of how many hours exactly, like I don't really count. It varies a lot depending on the week. Like suddenly you'll have a week where you have maybe 3 deadlines and a midterm and a project, like many meetings. So obviously that will be a busier week and you'll probably spend a lot more time. But then there's some like more calmer weeks where you actually get to enjoy more like other activities that you want to do. Like I love swimming, so I'll try and go, let's say, once or twice a week swimming. Then obviously we're all on the leadership council, so that's also like things that we do on the side. There will be societies. I love having dinners with my friends, so like we'll go to someone's house and have dinner at theirs, and then switch over to another house for the like next dinner. So I think you can get the balance that you want. I've always thought like the more things you have, the more you like learn to prioritize and say, okay, what do I actually want to do? What are the important things to me? And you just manage to fit more things in. So I think, yeah, time management is crucial. You think coming into MIT that your time management is great. MIT definitely shows you that it wasn't, and teaches you how to just make it better and make the most of your time here.
All right. So in terms of research assistant roles, for the audience, there are a number of opportunities for MBAn students to apply to do research with faculty members. On average, it can be expected that it takes up like 10 hours a week, although it can vary from from week to week a little bit. Emily, I saw you raise your hand. You're doing research. Can you tell us a little bit more about the research assistant role that you have?
Yeah, so everyone's research seems like very different. For me, I'm working with Professor Bertsimas, and I'm working on a team that has 14 individual projects of 14 different students, but we all have the same goal, which is to apply this new machine learning technique to better predict and then eventually better prescribe healthcare protocols. So I am collaborating with a hospital in Connecticut, in Hartford. And we are doing a multimodal approach. Multimodal meaning we not just use like tabular data, but we also combine things like time series information, genetic information, images, and we combine all of that data to try to help doctors make better predictions for their patient outcomes. Yeah, this is overall summary.
Are you, what's the nature of the work? Like, are you working independently? Are you working with, Dimitri's oversight? Are there PhD students in the middle? Like, tell us a little bit more about like how you're spending that time each week.
Yeah, so there are 14 projects. Everyone is and 14 students. So everyone is a primary on one project and a secondary on another, which means that every project has 2 students. I have a combination of PhD students, master's students, and undergrads on my team. So it's been really cool to get perspectives from people in different fields. What else? I guess a lot of the work is independent. Like everyone's projects are slightly different. Like for example, I'm focusing on psychiatry and some people are doing like cardiology. So that aspect of it is independent, doing literature review and your individual project. But the overarching goal and like techniques that we're using are the same for everything, like the multimodal approach. So we do meet about bi-weekly to share ideas, and especially the older PhDs will help us younger masters and undergrad people learn some new techniques, I guess.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else doing research? No.
I'm also doing research.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
doing in the optimization space, so not in the machine learning space. And my project is working with New York City data, just transit data, and we're trying to, if you guys remember Uber pools from back in the day, it's something called microtransit. So it's a mix of regular transit where everyone goes on a bus and it's determined points, and then there's Uber where you can decide where you want to go. So everyone has individual requests, and my job is to determine what requests I can pair together. So maybe the Uber or the taxi will go a little bit out of the way, pick up that person within the given time frame. So it's been really fun. I'm working with a postdoc who's currently in Zurich, Switzerland, which has been a really unique experience as well, just learning from him and getting his experience. So I think the research has been fantastic.
Awesome. All right. So a question in the chat is about, I'm going to modify it a little bit. Given that, the majority of students coming in are coming directly from undergrad, however, some do have industry work experience. How have you felt, or how do you guys feel about, the difference in terms of the experience that you're having so far for those that came with some experience versus those that came direct from undergrad? Any like notable differences that you've noticed?
Sorry, just to clarify, you mean differences between the students or differences being in the professional world versus going back to school?
differences in your experience as a student having come. So, in your case, you had a couple of years of full-time work experience prior to coming in, but I think everyone else maybe came directly from finishing university. So, any noteworthy differences? And if not, that's okay, because we're hoping there isn't anything that's too different, but any noteworthy differences in terms of how you might feel your experience is different or would be different if you had more work experience or less?
I honestly can't, like, being the person with work experience in this group. I don't feel like there were any differences for me. I think the biggest challenge for me was transitioning from the professional world back into academia and getting used to like having what am I trying to say? Having I feel like at the time I had to work on a lot of my time management skills because like we said, this semester has been very challenging from the technical standpoint. But in terms of like I have not noticed any differences for myself. I don't know if you guys have any different opinions on that.
Yeah, like the only minor difference that I noticed between someone like myself who's coming straight out of undergrad and someone with experience is like there's some industry jargon that sometimes we go to like networking events and I'm not familiar with these terms. Like, for example, like my A-Lab project, we're doing like a B2B platform. I didn't know that meant business to business platform, just little things like that. But you pick it up quickly, and talking to other students, like I know like Voight has explained some jargon to me before. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, great. Are there any unique traditions or events that have, enhanced your experience so far, or that you would expect to be, something noteworthy coming up? I know you've all only been here since the end of August, so, but maybe like the biggest one so far was like the fall retreat. Can you talk a little bit about how you've been able to get involved in things outside of the business analytics program, either clubs, conferences, anywhere across MIT? How have you been able to kind of engage with beyond business analytics?
I can jump in. I'm part of two clubs here at Sloan. I'm part of the AI ML club, which hosts these presentations and speaker series, which have been super interesting so far. I'm also part of the Sloan Pride Club, which is more of a affinity group through which I've also gotten some networking opportunities. I had a networking event with McKinsey last week, and it was great to meet people from MBAs and LGOs and alumni of the program through these. So those are the two main clubs I've been involved in so far.
I think we also just have like a Sloan Senate events app, which is very useful because all of the events that are coming up are like displayed there. So if you just keep track, you'll see like, oh, there's an event being organized by this program, or this speaker is coming to speak, and so you can just like super easily sign up. Most of the times some of us don't check the app because like that's not something we do every day, but as soon as someone sees something interesting, they'll send it in our group chat, and so we'll end up going as a group. I think, for example, so in January we're gonna have a mixer where we're gonna get to meet some of the executive MBAs from Sloan, which is really exciting, and we're looking forward to like learning a bit more because obviously they have a lot more experience in their industries and they've worked for a long while. So just getting to hear from their experience, any like tips and that they want to share with us.
Awesome. All right. So another question that often comes up is a feeling of intimidation around having enough computer programming skills coming into the program. Can you talk a little bit more about, some of the, skills that you had coming in and how you were able to kind of ramp up, maybe touch on the orientation experience. And I think there's a skills building class during that, but how were you able to sort of build on the skills that you need in order to, work in these more technical classes?
I can get us started on this one. Like I said, I come from a slightly less technical background with econ and math. I during my full-time experience, I utilized Stata, which is a very econ oriented program, which is not really used outside of the economic consulting world. So coming in, definitely orientation was super helpful because we had courses in Python, R, SQL, and Julia, which is a programming language that no one knows. It was developed here at MIT, and everyone grows to love over the course of the semester. So orientation was one great resource. I would say just like people around you are a wonderful resource as well. I often ask a lot of the computer science majors for help with my coding. That has been very helpful. And third, classes have, most of our classes have recitations on Fridays where they go over some of the coding that you need for the homework or projects. So that has been immensely helpful as well.
Yeah, I would just want to add, like, I wouldn't be too scared of your coding background. Let's say, like, obviously it's much better if you do know how to use a few programming languages, but like Vojta said, you get to all of them at the beginning, and you get to like learn and practice. Every single homework has like a coding question, so like there's a theoretical question and then a coding question where you get to like practice, let's say, your coding skills. And obviously there's people that are going to have, like, when you come into the program, some people have done like computer science and or other programs like this where they have a lot of background, but I know other people that have come from a business background and they had barely any like big skills, and you just get to like catch up, and everything gets taught here, which is very useful. So I wouldn't like be scared, like, please, for this application, like, don't be afraid to apply. I was like, this is crazy, like, why would I apply to MIT, like, I'll never get in. This is just such a like far long shot, and you just need to give it a try because you don't want to regret. I would say you never know what can happen.
All right. There's another question here. We kind of touched on this already, but what kind of mentorship opportunities or what type of access do you have to faculty members?
I know we kind of mentioned this before, but all of our classes have like quite a few time slots for office hours, and those are extremely helpful. You can get more one-on-one attention with the teaching staff, like TAs and professors. And most of our classes also have some sort of online forum where you can ask questions out like hours outside of class and outside of those office hours. And the teaching staff is usually really quick to respond. And if that doesn't work, reaching out via email always gets a response eventually.
Can you talk a little bit more about who's teaching your classes? Are they, tenured faculty? Are they lecturers? Is it a mix? Like, who's teaching the classes?
So I think in terms of our lectures, it's mainly professors that are also simultaneously doing a lot of research. And those are the people that generally you will work with for your RA-ship if you want to do a research project. So these people are like very, very, like, have a lot of experience in their industry, are working on like so many different projects at the same time. I think Bert Seema's, like, he's written so many books about his research, he's published so many papers. It's just like, you just wonder how he's done so many things in that period of time. So it's just like really impressive people to be like hearing from their experiences. Then there's like the TAs from office hours are people that are maybe working in the operations research or like doing a PhD. So they understand like the struggles that you're going through, so they're a bit more like approachable and understand that, you don't like you're really confused by this equation, so they can help you a bit more. So I think it's nice to have that range of like very experienced people that have a lot of experience, and then some more younger students that you can just relate to a bit more.
We also, in two of our classes, going off of that, in our analytics lab and analytics to action, they often invite guest speakers to talk about their real world experience and what it's like to not only implement the data, not do just the analytics, but also bring it to action. So that has been super cool to see the stuff that we learn about in classes applied to the real world.
There's a couple questions in the chat about the capstone project, and I'll preface this by saying I recognize that you haven't gotten to the capstone project yet, and that's something where it actually kicks off in January, and you start to match with some of the partners that the program has identified, and then you begin that capstone exposure and that work in February and into the spring semester. But from what you know so far, can anybody comment on kind of preparing for the capstone, or what type of organization you hope to work with, or what type of project you hope to work on?
I can touch on just the process
Okay.
and start with that. So by this semester, the end of this semester, we're supposed to choose our capstone partner. So that's going to be the person we get to work with for those 8 months, which is a really exciting decision to make based on who you worked with throughout the year, semester on projects or homeworks, or who you just generally work well with. And then starting in January, when we come back from winter break, we create like a little video pitching ourselves, the capstone partner and you, and then the companies will watch it and you'll get to interview with about 10 companies, which is a really exciting process. And I think for industries, it's a nice mix for me. I'm not sure what industry I want to work in, so I'm open to anything. And I think the projects range from machine learning and optimization focus as well.
Great,
Just to add on to that, we also had like a capstone preview night where some of the potential capstone companies came to give you could just just to have a chat with them, so you could ask them any questions, get to know them a bit more. So it's like a little preview, like you just get to know more about the companies and potential projects you could work on, and it gives you a better idea of maybe what you'd be interested in working, who you'd be interested in working for. So that was also very useful.
There's a question about the nature of the work that you're doing that's required for the different courses. Is the work primarily group-based? Is it individually focused? Is it exam or research focused? Like what's the nature of the work that you're doing?
I would say we have a lovely mix of everything. So in each of our classes, we have a group project that ranges in groups of 2 to 4. And we also have homeworks too, probably every week, every other week, that range more in theoretical, but also computational. So I think it's a nice mix of all different types of group work, individual work. For me, I try to do some homework on my own, individually try to max out as much as I can. And then by going to office hours and talking with other students, trying to debug code or figure out what we can do to solve the questions is a great way. So it's a nice mix of individual work and group work.
Nice. This question is specific to Emily about her research with Professor Dimitris Bartzimis. It says he's somewhat of a legend in healthcare research. As somebody who aspires to work in research with him, what advice would you give?
Yeah, so I read about his research before coming here and was also very intimidating. With the resume that he has, it's very scary to reach out to him. But during some admin events and throughout my application process, I did reach out to him and kind of ask about his advice in terms of what he's looking for in potential RA, research assistant. So that was helpful. And then also speaking to other students that were doing research with him and learning more about what day-to-day life would with a RA-ship as an MBAn would look like, as opposed to I know I also considered just applying directly to the ORC to do research with him. Just reaching out and asking questions to people who are in that has been really helpful.
All right, so a lot of the questions we've already answered, so I'm going to ask this last question and maybe each of you could just touch on it before we wrap up. So what is a piece of advice that you would offer for someone as they're, either thinking about applying to the program or trying to, make a decision whether or not, to accept an offer and join us in the business analytics program at MIT? So a piece of advice.
This might sound like a very, very cheesy advice, but I would say for the application, just be yourself. There's a lot of components of the application that allow you to add your personal voice to your application, not just the personal statement. I believe there's also those like video essays where you get to like show your personality, show what you're passionate about. This program is so diverse. There's not like one clear formula for what the admissions office is looking for. So as long as you're being your personal self, that has been that I would offer as a piece of advice. Also in the interview process as well. There's lots of opportunities to communicate with the admissions office and show them who you are.
Yeah, I think for me it would be something similar along the lines of like, when you make the decision of whether to apply to the MBAn program or not, just don't let the factor of like of being afraid like take over. Like if you don't decide to apply, that's totally fine, but make it because it's not a program suited for you because you're interested in other like degrees instead or whatever. But don't let like the fact that it's just MIT or you're scared of like being rejected or whatever be a factor in your decision. Just go for it and you'll see what comes out. Like Vojta said, like it's about showing who you truly are. I think one of the main things that they look in an interview is just like that, like motivation and passion, just to do whatever you like, whatever that is. I think they like one year they took someone because they were like a professional athlete and like they were super curious and whatever. Like they just look for different personalities and different passions in whatever sector that may be. And they're not looking for like the geekiest, most intelligent person on this planet Earth. Like that's not about it. So they want like a big community where everyone gets along, and they really prioritize that.
I think another thing to highlight, 100% everything of what Anka and Vojta have said. I think another thing to highlight is just to learn more about the program by attending events like this or reaching out to current students. That's something I did to really understand what the focus of this program was and what's made it stand out compared to other ones. And that just made me want to be here even more. And I think that comes across in your application when you put in the work and you understand what specifically about this program stands out to you and why you want to be here. And as Anka said, do not be scared. Everyone has imposter syndrome. It's something we're all going to deal with, but please apply if this is for you, and everything will work out.
Anyone else want to add? All set? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate the time that you spent in sharing your stories and helping prospective applicants gather more information about the experience here at MIT Sloan. We have a few more upcoming events, so if anyone's curious to continue to connect with us or learn a little bit more about the application process, have your questions answered, we have events really designed to focus on that. Of course, we have a deadline approaching on January 4th, and that's the application deadline to join us beginning in August of 2024. So, I just one more time like to thank all of the students for joining us today. Thank you so much, as well as to thank my colleagues behind the scenes, Catherine and Tish, for their help with the Q&A process. We look forward to continuing to connect with all of you throughout the application process. Stay in touch with us and have a great day. Thanks so much.